Are there going to be OVs, official visits, every weekend in June?
I mean, I will say they're going to be consistently, you know, every week. They'll probably have a guy, like I said, this weekend they have six. On June 16th weekend, I want to say they're going to have 17 official visitors, which is probably one of their biggest. Actually, that might be the 23rd. I might have that backwards, but regardless, they're going to
23rd.
have
23rd, you got 17 names on here, man,
yeah,
on the
for the
23rd.
I think that's the 23rd. Oh, yeah, I got it mixed up. But and then you have some visitors on the 16th. I think around 5 official visitors. You have a few during the week on. You have one on June 11th. I think that's Jameer Grizzly, talented DB, and then you have a big one coming up later on June 19th. That's just after that 16th weekend. You have 5-star plus wide receiver Jeremiah Smith is coming and in between those times, you're going to have a lot of unofficial visitors. Unofficial visitor June 8th through the 10th is going to be JoJo Trader, a 5-star wide receiver also from Chaminade. So I think it's going to be consistently just about every weekend. I'm not going to say every weekend because certainly there's a a little bit of a break between the June 10th weekend. I've heard too many there, so there's not any there. But I wouldn't say every weekend, but I'd say just about every weekend. They're going to have guys here, and you want to get these done because you go into the dead period in July, so that's why FSU's really hammered out to get a lot of these guys on campus that are top tier targets. They know we're going to decide before the season starts, so I think certainly it's a big deal, and it's going to be a lot of excitement, a lot of work, but also a lot of excitement, certainly for FSU, and a good chance to really build upon this top tier, top 10 class, maybe even fringe top 5 class if things fall in the place.
Samurai Knoll. Maybe sounds dumb, but how do these guys get stars? If one evaluator gives them 4 and another 5, is it a petition process to get the 5th? Walk us through, Michael, how some of the sausage is made when it comes to
Well,
stars.
I'm very experienced in this area because I used to do it when I ran my own site on Florida Varsity. So I did a lot of my own rankings. I think the stars are based on, first off, film, in-person live evaluations, and then also just where you project these guys going into college. Who projects the best. So there could be a guy that's maybe skill wise and stat wise he's putting up better stats, but maybe he doesn't project as well as these other guys, and that's why you see a lot of these guys, they're projected like 5 stars because maybe they're not tearing it up or tearing up as quite as much as another guy, but their projection to the next level where they add weight, add strength, they add technique, they're going to be so good. But that's kind of how the process goes as far as the valuations and what they look for. Obviously, measurables is a big deal, speed, skill, all that stuff. You look at those things, but film and in-person evaluations is a big deal when you're doing these star rankings.
He writes, was looking at 2023 schedule again, and it's really hard to not see 11-1 if we just line up with our expected roster and play the damn games. Do you guys agree, or should I pump the brakes? Well, I don't know that I would assume 11-1. You could very easily lose a neutral site game against a very good LSU team, and it's not hard to imagine losing on the road. If they make that college game day on the road at night at Clemson, I mean, you could lose that game, and there's no shame in it. It'd be frustrating, but you could lose it. So that's 2 losses right there.
But what would you say is the most likely record? I think 11-1 might be the most likely record. I think it's more likely that they're 11-1 that they lose than they lose
both of those games.
Corey?
I agree with that.
Yeah, 11-1 feels right.
I'm not saying it's 80% likely, but it's the most
Just
likely.
the law of averages. Those both feel like coin flip games.
Right.
You're going to win one of the coin flips. You're going to lose one of the coin flips.
Yeah, you'd like to think. That's a tough call because 10-2 also plays a part here where I do think they'll win those other 10 games, and then they get a rematch against Clemson in the ACC title game and win that game and go 11-2 with the extra game.
Yeah, but you don't get in then.
You don't get to the college football playoff, but you win the ACC and you're playing in a New Year's Day bowl game or whatever. But I mean, it's weird. We've gotten to a place, let's be honest, if they went 11-2 this year, fresh off of 10-3, and they won the conference, and they got past Clemson to win the conference, in the rematch or whatever it might be, I don't know, man. Would we look at that as a bad season?
You wouldn't look at it as a bad
It's starting
season.
to sound like we're going to look at it as a bad season.
But you wouldn't feel great about it because how many times you can have a Jordan Travis with all of this around him?
No,
I think I'd feel
What would
great
it take?
about it. I
great
legitimately
about it?
do, and I'm saying it now. I'm not the frustrated Corey on a Sunday morning after they lose to Clemson 31-16 or something. But again, it's the perspective of getting older and the perspective of going through that ditch that we went through for 5 years. That I think a 21-5 record over 2 seasons, I would be really cool with it because we've seen the other side, and I hope I won't lose perspective like I did after 13 because we went through this kind of from whatever 03 to 12. Florida State was kind of in a malaise, and then as soon as they got good again, they're like, well, they're going to be good forever. And then I hope I don't lose that perspective because I would be 11 wins to me would be really fun. It'd be great for our business. It'd be fun to talk about. I would be very excited about that.
Well, let's bring this up. I think it's important too because, I've talked a lot about now when I compare and contrast expectations, I talk about what I want this Florida State program to do. The unabashed fan in me talks about wanting them to take the next step and judging them on that level of success. So on the one hand, you want to continue to grow. You're not a victim of your success. As you get better, you want to keep getting better. You don't get to go backwards without being criticized. So, let's hope that we see that. 11-2 would be another step forward. How you lose, when you lose, it all matters. It would be tough if they didn't win the conference. A season in which they don't win the conference, I do think I'd be disappointed in that. And I think
I'd be if you don't beat Clemson at least once, that's going to make me want to punt something. Like you've got to end this streak.
Yeah,
it's been since 2014.
Yeah, no, you got to end the streak one way or the other, whether it's the first game or the rematch. Obviously, oddly, if you have to lose one of them, you'd prefer it be that first one and go ahead and win the ACC, which means, again, we get back to LSU. But the other thing we're going to be doing this year, and this is true of all championship-level teams, is what we do with the greater debate about who's a real contender and who isn't. How do the coaching staff handle the expectations and the biggest moments in the biggest games? Now you're being judged on a different level. You had to get us to those games. You had to get us to a place where these games mattered. But now how do you perform when it's 24-24 in the fourth quarter and it's 3rd and 4? I mean, all of a sudden, these things get elevated. And we know coaches' careers have been evaluated this way. I mean, there are guys who just have not found ways to win in those moments, and they could have a 90% win percentage, and eventually people are like, okay, he's got to go. He can't win these games. Is there any worry with so many offensive options, writes Burke, that Coach Norvell may try to get too cute in some game situations? What if we throw a fade to Winston Wright on 4th and goal?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't worry about. I always like the idea of having too many weapons. It's okay.
It's a
Yeah,
preferable problem to have.
good old have and not need not have.
Like when
scenario
Corey
there.
was in college trying to pick between the beautiful women that wanted to spend time with him on the weekend.
And I had so many weapons. I had my hair. I had the guns. I had the personality. I had the fake teeth. The whole thing, gang.
A lot was going on back then.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I settled on Shanna.
You didn't settle. Shanna's awesome.
No, I meant like she won my love and
Okay.
affection.
Sounded
Shanna
like
did.
you said
Yeah,
it.
settled wasn't the right word to use. You're right. I
That was
chose.
a misuse of
Shanna's a first
language.
round pick.
Yeah, that
Yeah,
was.
she was. Yeah.
Mm.
The thing I was going to say is like, I get the concern. I think the bigger concern to me is like, how does he make everybody happy? Like, because I do think that's going to be somewhat of not a big issue, but man, you are going to have to spread around a lot of touches because there's a lot of dudes. You mentioned Kentron Portier earlier.
Mhm.
Kentron Portier is a guy who had a great spring, has been in the program, really evolved to become a really impressive player and a key part of this offense. But I don't know. Does he get more passes than he did this year? Probably, maybe not.
Yeah, probably not. Probably not. I hope that he understands, and patience is certainly lost these days, oftentimes for many in a instant society. This isn't a rant. It's just true. Like, you can leave. People can just leave. They don't have. So I hope he understands that after this year, Johnny Wilson is going to leave. And Kentron Portier figures to be the benefactor of that, even if Keon Coleman were to stay, right? I mean, he's going to be the guy.
Unless the portal king goes out and gets some other 5-star from I'm just saying, like, that's the reality too. So I do think, and I think Norvell's done a good job of it to kind of keep people happy. But that don't you think he's going to have to take that into consideration?
Don't you mean though when you say people, you're just talking about receivers because the
Well,
running
maybe
backs will
even
get their
that.
carries.
Will they? I mean,
Not all of them.
I mean,
Somebody's going to leave that group after this year, no doubt.
No, but I mean I think Rodney Hill, Toa Feely, and Trey Benson are going to be part of the offense, and they're going to get their
Sure.
carries. And they have to know that, like, okay, I'm going to get 11 carries a game or 9 carries a game. The wide receivers are the ones that you worry about. Maybe tight end to a certain extent too.
Right.
How's Jaheim Bell going to react, or how's his family going to react? Because Twitter was a little bit dicey for him last year with his family if he only has 1 catch for 11 yards.
Well,
in a
guess
game.
what? He ain't going anywhere.
Well, true.
So
True.
I don't care how
yeah,
they react.
but you want to keep some harmony.
Oh, well, yeah, I'd love
because you-
everybody to sing Kumbaya, but I mean, there are some folks who could just up and leave out of
Right.
their frustration. There
Yeah.
are others who are screwed.
I'm just
But also,
yeah.
Ira, like you think about those Alabama teams, they would have 2 receivers catch 90 balls each, and these other 5-star guys aren't doing diddly poo. And maybe they weren't harmonious, but they stayed, and it didn't seem to negatively impact Tua or
I think
Jalen, whoever's throwing the ball to him.
You would also think the winning cures a lot,
Yeah.
and then also as we said, man, if these games are getting lopsided,
They're going to
everybody's
get a
going
lot
to
of
eat.
playing time.
Yeah,
Yeah.
everybody's going to get to eat. You're not going to leave Johnny Wilson out there for 4 quarters.